Welcome back. In this video, we're going to explore the panorama feature in our photo merge tool in Lightroom. Um, so I've got now 5 sections here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't look over here. That's our finished product. So I've merged all of my component HDRs. So each of these is made up of 3 exposures. And I'm now going to stitch them together to make a panorama. So you'll just want to select all the images that you'd like to merge. Go to Photo, scroll down here to Photo Merge, and then choose Panorama. Again, it's going to spend a little time creating a panorama preview. And you'll notice we have these 3 different ways that it's going to stitch and kind of map out our panorama. So let's look at it automatically chose spherical, but let's look at cylindrical. So you see it's a little bit taller. It gave us a little bit more headroom up here, but let's look in here and see if it, let's compare. Not that much different. Let's drag this around and look. And it seems that one of these is squished or stretched. Either this one is squished and that's why it's taller vertically, or this one could be stretched a little bit, but as I look in here closer, this looks about right. So I think the other maybe just yeah, squished a little bit higher. The other method here, perspective, won't work with something shot like this. This is really meant for 360-degree panoramas. Mine here is only 180 degrees. I was standing on this sidewalk here, so this is to my right, and as we pan over here, this is to my left. So this is 180 degrees. This just won't even work. With these, it depends on what's more important to you, whether it's your skyline or the horizon line. In this case, I think either of these look fine. So you can see the differences are, seems our colors changed a little bit here. Let's go with this one. So we'll click merge. You can see our progress bar. This is going to probably take a little bit longer because we now have these 5 pieces that we're stitching together that started from 3 24 megapixel exposures a piece. So this is going to be a pretty large file when we're done with it. Again, if you're careful, you can get a pretty good panorama without necessarily having to have any specialized gear. But if you really wanted to go deep with it, you could get a special tripod head that's made for creating panoramas, and it takes into account the differences in lenses and where the camera is actually needing to rotate to get a really precise perspective. But you can see even with these big pieces here, this stitched together fairly quickly. So now that they're stitched, let's go and look at our stitched panorama. As you can see, the work we did adjusting each piece before we stitched it together really made it go a lot smoother. There are some things that you know, you can choose to apply to each piece before you stitch. Some of them you can do afterwards. Anything that's going to be a global adjustment. So let's say sharpening. We could apply this after the fact. That's not necessarily something that has to happen in each piece. Um, Same with noise reduction. Um, Anything that we'd like to do with color, we would have to make sure that the white balance is consistent across each individual piece. If you had differences from section to section, then you'd want to take care of those individually. But probably the biggest thing that you'll need to deal with before you stitch is just making sure that the exposure matches between them all. And the white balance. Even if the white balance is incorrect, if they all have the same incorrect white balance, you can deal with it after you stitch it. Let's look a little closer at it. So you can see we have lots of great detail in our highlights here in the water, really nice saturated color. We've got good shadow detail in the tops of the trees. We can even start to see a star or two, which in the city that's usually about as much as you can see with your eye anyway. We've got good highlight and shadow detail on the tree trunk here. So overall it looks like a really almost like a really good single exposure. When you have your eye is trained well enough to see the way your camera sees, you look at this and you know that this is not one exposure. But it's not the cartoonish sort of HDR that you'll see a lot of times. And it does look a lot closer to what you would have seen with your eye that particular evening. So that's about it. Lightroom really does a pretty good job of making the merging process pretty quick and painless, and I feel that it gives you really nice results, particularly if you have planned and thought through the process of the pieces you're going to use to construct these sorts of things. If you've got any questions, as usual, feel free to email me or post it in the tech support forum. We'll see you next time.